She wasn't supposed to make it this far. Born with congenital heart disease, Sara Donbard defied the odds. Then, at 40 years old, she suffered a stroke. I am so grateful to have sat down with Sara to hear her story and her lifelong journey with heart disease. I hope you enjoy my conversation with Sara Donbard. Sara, tell me about your heart story.
I was born with a very complex heart defect, and it's really all I've known is living with heart disease. So I had open heart surgery as a baby and really did quite well all the way up to about 40 years old. And it's something I always sensed, I felt like a shoe was going to drop when I turned 40. And sure enough, a couple months into 40, I was just taking a walk. It was an ordinary day, and I had a mild stroke. And so that's kind of been my life story, is just living with complex heart disease and what that looks like, and medications and procedures and such. But the flip of it is I've had a beautiful life, and I really am who I am today because of what I've experienced and the resiliency of it.
So, you were born with a heart defect. And how did you feel growing up? Did you feel different?
I did, because I had so many limitations back then, especially, it was in the 80s. And so we didn't know a lot about heart disease back then, especially, and living with congenital heart disease and what that looked like. So I was always, in a separate PE class, and at camp, I was, limited in terms of the activities I could do and not eating salt. Oftentimes my friends would, go to the mall and want to walk around, just ordinary things. And I was out of breath. And so I had to not, I wasn't able to participate in a lot of those type of, teen activities and just like enjoying life unencumbered.
How do you think that shaped you or impacted your life, really?
I mean, I think it's so interesting because this is all I've known, is living with limitations and heart disease. So I don't know really what my life would have looked like. I know that I am more empathetic. I'm resilient. My life's work, I love, working with people and being a supporter of those that are living with chronic conditions. So I know that those are all really positive things. So I like, what that piece of heart disease has given me. But sure, would I've loved to be unrestricted and free, and, the ability to make any choice at any time, not having to think about some of my constrictions. Sure. So for example, after I graduated college, I didn't really have the freedom to look around at different jobs and see really what my interest was. I just kind of took the first thing I could that had health insurance. So it just kind of always stays with you, and it's always with you in some capacity.
Yeah, you're a patient for
I'm a
life.
patient. Yes.
And I think that's something about heart disease is it's more of a chronic condition.
Absolutely. I mean, it's so much of how I define myself is I'm a patient. But as I've gone older, I've also learned I'm not just a patient. I'm a whole person. I have so many other attributes and things. And this is just a part of who I
I love that it doesn't just define you. It's just part of your story. It doesn't have to be your entire story.
am. Right.
Now that you're a mom yourself, and there are going to be some families watching this whose child has just been born and is diagnosed with heart disease, what advice do you have for them having been through it?
I have a 17-year-old son. And what I could say to you is do your best to find a support system. It is so important. And also try your best not to limit your child because of your own fears. So I would get the facts. For example, if a doctor, approves your child playing a certain sport, let's say they're in middle school and they say they've done the echogram and the EKG and all the tests say, they're able to do it. And if your child wants to play the sport, allow them to, and maybe work out your own issues and your own fears. I mean, I guess what I'd say is you just want to try your best not to project your own anxiety onto your child, because that stays with you. And that happened to me quite a bit.
Really? Can you tell me more about that? Because I think that's really important because you've been there and been through it.
Yeah. And I don't blame my parents at all. Listen, they did the best they could do. They were amazing. They are amazing people. But they just, I think they just operated out of fear so much that I had a very sheltered life. I wanted to, let's say, I wanted to go on point on ballet. I got to a certain point for ballet, and They didn't want me to, try point. They thought it might be too tiring, or the swim team, or just maybe going for a hike with friends. I just was limited in my capacity. And now, as an adult, able to make my own choices, I have so much freedom. I actually am in a dance class and, walk every day. And because I've learned my own limitations. And when I get tired, I stop. So I guess that would be my advice, is to be there and listen, but not, you know, overwhelm your child with things that may not necessarily be facts.
Yeah. So then with your heart story, you were born with congenital heart disease.
Yep.
You had a surgery as a baby. And then are you saying that everything was good until you were 40?
So yes, I had open heart. I was born with a very complex heart defect. I was a blue baby, for those that are watching would know that. And I was fine up until, 40 years old. When I mean fine, listen, I still went to the doctor twice a year. I've had too many echograms and EKGs and stress tests, et cetera, to count. And that's just the life of living with the chronic heart condition. And I have limitations, but I really, I wasn't, I was fine. I was fine. I took a couple medications, but it's really when I turned 40 years old when.
Okay. So tell me about what happened when you were 40 and you suffered a stroke, right?
So when I was 40 years old, I had a minor stroke, and I like to say minor because I'm so grateful. I don't have any lasting damage from that physically, although mentally I'm still working out, what that came with and the emotional piece of that. And so from the stroke, I basically, part of the surgery, I had something called a baffle. It's a artificial conduit that part of my defect, with that help with blood flow. And as I've gotten older, there's scar tissue and it's stretched, and so a leaks. It's common with my particular defect, transposition of the great arteries, and so leaks formed, and basically the a leak, you know, opened and went to my brain. So I had the stroke.
So is that like a hole in the heart, like a PFO, which I just did a segment with Dr. Tobis on that. Can you tell me?
And I want to actually comment on your segment with Dr. Tobis. It was so mind blowing to me because when Dr. Tobis said, he specifically was talking about the correlation of migraines and strokes and how those can play. For years, I had had significant migraines. I had gone to so many doctors, and they just thought it was hormonal. And then I had a stroke. And so basically, it's different than a PFO, but similar in that how it's fixed. So I have a device. It's called an ocular septal device that kind of patches the leak. And I haven't had a migraine since.
I appreciate that because I think that every young woman needs to understand. I mean, you're a young woman having lived with heart disease your entire life. As you mentioned, every 6 months, you have to go to the doctor, the cardiologist to get checked on. Now, I want to tell everyone about HeartSnug. Tell us about your business that you created with your sister,
Thank
right? I
you.
want to hear
Yes,
this.
I created HeartSnug with my sister and my
Yeah.
lifelong best friend.
Yeah.
And it's really born out of my life experience in and out of doctor's appointments. It's um it's a bra, essentially. It's a medical garment, and it's disposable, and it's really was created for patient privacy, for women to be able to wear an extra layer underneath the traditional gown if they chose.
I love that because when you're a patient and we know it, and you have to put on the gown and then you go for a stress test or something and you're running and you're covering, I mean, how do you cover
Exactly.
yourself up? So,
Exactly, and so this provides a little elastic, and it was really exciting because some of the patients are wearing that, and you mentioned stress tests, and they were able to go, like, 5 to 10 seconds longer at their peak performance on the treadmill, and that just shows proof of concept. So, really, it was created because I love all things medical, because it's just part of, right, our DNA when you live with, and I just wanna help women. I wanna make women, just feel more empowered and comfortable in medical settings. So that's been great.
I know that you lived in the Palisades and I texted you to check in on you and you sent me, I'm going to get very emotional now, I feel like, but you sent me an image of just what you took and it was just your medication.
The only thing I took was my bag of medication. I mean, I'm on 10 medications, and that's what came to my mind. It was just a reaction. It was fight or flight, and that's what I took. I really think that a lot of suffering comes from your ability not to just lean in and kind of accept what is. And going back to the medication, my doctor had wanted to put me on Plavix, which is a blood thinner, for a while, and I was very hesitant because of the side effects. I have bruises all over my arms and legs, and that's just part of what so many people live with, being on a blood thinner. But I wanted to say it's so important, at least this is my advice, just lean in and accept kind of what is, because had I not been on the Plavix, I can't tell you how many people called me, my doctor. They were so concerned because of the stress of the fires and if that could lead to a stroke, and I knew that being on the Plavix, it just provided that extra layer of protection, and it really has helped me get through the fires. So I believe there's no coincidences, and I think things happen for a reason. About the fires, yes, it's devastating. It's devastating for our community. And my cardiologist at UCLA, Dr. Jamil Abelholsen, he called me right after, and he said, "I just want you to know you are going to be okay. You are resilient. I've seen you get through hard things. You've got this. This isn't going to break you." And I needed to hear that from him, who I trust so intimately and deeply with my life. And that's actually been the grounding force to get me through.
Thanks for watching Heartquake Media. Make sure you check out our website and social media for more information on heart healthy living. And remember, wellness starts with the heart.